Hello dear trainees, welcome to this session on how to teach children in the KTP. Well, the first thing that we have to know is who our children in the KTP are. We have basically two groups of young learners who are in K and PT courses. In K courses, children range from 7 to 9 years old, and in PT courses, PT1 or maybe PT2 students are 10-year-olders whose behavior is pretty similar to children in K courses. We need to have children who have already consolidated their reading and writing processes in Spanish, and this is something that is verified when students take the placement test. We all have studied many theories about language acquisition and how children learn, but the important thing is really to know how to apply all of these principles to teaching practice. So first, we are going to check the theory about behaviorism. In this theory, the principle is that children learn by watching, imitating others. Children respond to stimuli from the environment, and all the rules and behaviors that they observe have to be reinforced. What is important from this principle to the teaching practice? That teachers in K and PT courses need to have very clear classroom rules and routines. This is something that has to be established from the very first day of class, and it could be even negotiated with the students. However, if rules are not reinforced throughout the classes, they are going to be lost and classroom management is going to be hard. On the second place, we have the social constructivism theory. This theory says that children learn from others when they interact in society with peers or with adults. What is important to keep in mind for classroom principles? In our KTP program, we want to promote a lot of pair and group work, as kids are going to learn together and they're going to learn from each other. The third important principle is the TPR, or total physical response. As you know, children are physically active. They can't remain still. They have to be moving all the time. In addition, they have a very short attention span and they get easily bored and distracted if they are not enjoying what they are doing. Therefore, an important principle to keep in mind for your classes is to be dynamic, to prepare several activities, to try to change the pace of the activities every 10 or 15 minutes for students not to get distracted. And the teacher has to also demonstrate a lot of dynamism, to have a very active attitude, to be also integrated with the students in all of the activities you propose in class. After, we have to keep in mind the theory about multiple intelligences. In this theory, we know that all human beings are unique and different, and kids are more keen on some skills than others. Anyways, we have to implement this principle in class by first knowing your students and design tasks that address different multiple intelligences. It is important to keep in mind their musical, kinesthetical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, artistic skills, among others, and to promote multiple intelligences in class. This way, we can have very good teaching practices in class. I would like to share with you now some best teaching practices we have observed from successful teachers in the KTP. In K courses, as we mentioned before, it is very important to have a nice classroom environment. And a classroom environment is built up from first rules and behaviors, but also the teacher's attitude. Teachers need to develop some characteristics like being patient, being kind, and being open to students. It is important to always reinforce rules and to give very clear and simple instructions to students. Instructions have to be split in such way that all students can follow them. High achievers, low achievers. The simpler the instructions are, the more successful your classes and your activities are gonna be. In addition, we have to keep in mind to always promote communication among students. Teacher talking time has to be reduced as much as possible, and communication has to happen in English. Therefore, we recommend you create a lot of activities for interaction, for pair and group work, and in these activities, offering students simple and clear conversation models and prompts is important. Here you can see an example of a very simple conversation model students can follow, and then interaction is going to be successful. Not only are they going to be using the language, but also this is input for grammar. After communication, it is important to keep in mind language. Language has to be simple, simplified, the way that the teacher addresses students, and also the models and the input the teacher provides. Do not forget to correct language when needed. However, do not interrupt students every time they have an error. You have to know what the correct moment to correct language is. And it is important to have a lot of input in language, not only from grammar or exercises on the book, but also through songs, stories, games, the yellow boxes on the book, and any other materials that you can use to give students language input. Now that we're talking about different ways to show them input, we want to remind you about the different range of material you can use to teach children in K courses and the young PT students. In the resource library, you can have a lot of materials like cutouts, posters, puppets, foam balls. We really recommend you to go drop at the resource library and get familiar with all the material they have there. Don't forget to follow the policies for booking material in advance, and you can use anything you want because you have also to be really creative. Remember that we want that classes are fun for students, and if they are fun for students, it's going to be fun for the teacher as well. Also, the workbook, a student's book, has stickers. The material has workbook. They have the platform. So the more you explore the material, the more things you're going to have to complement your class. Another aspect to keep in mind is learning strategies and assessment. Those are important aspects we have in the KTP, but they are addressed differently in K courses. Remember to keep language simple, even for training students in learning strategies. Students in K courses are more familiar sometimes with the word tip rather than strategies. However, students have to be clear about what the strategy or the tip is about, how it works, and why you're teaching them this tip. In terms of assessment, it is also recommended to keep assessment criteria simple and to make it easy for students to assess their performance as well as their classmates' performance. Happy faces, simple charts are some of the artifacts you can create to foster assessment in young students. Because, as we have said, what is really important is to know our young learners' characteristics. Do not forget that children are curious, enthusiastic, and emotionally excitable. Kids can concentrate for some period of time when they are motivated. So do not forget to be dynamic and to create several activities and to be changing the pace of the class every 10 or 15 minutes. In addition, keep in mind that children are like sponges that are getting information from every source. Children rely on both verbal and non-verbal communication. So you have to be really careful with the faces you make or the words you use to talk to them, because they can be either really motivated by your words or also they can get discouraged. Remember that children are excellent mimics too, so all the things they see you're doing, they are going to replicate later. And keep in mind that teacher approval and support are really important for these children. You are the authority figure in class, but also you are the one giving the example at all times. Also, we have to remember that children are highly competitive. They love competitions. Children love participating in competitions, and this is the kind of activity we can do in class. However, do not forget that children can't tell the difference between fact and fiction. When they get excited and when they get into the competition, they forget about other values like respect, like being careful with each other, you have to remind them about being careful when running, when jumping, not to hurt themselves or to hurt others. And finally, keep in mind that children ask a lot of questions, and this is something positive. It is much better when children have questions to ask rather than when they are very passive in class. So it is important to answer their questions, maybe to let them know when the correct moment is to ask and for you to answer. But also they forget information easy. So that's why we strongly recommend you to be reinforcing and reviewing rules, language input, communication strategies, or any other things that you consider important for your class. So as a final reflection, I would like to invite you to check that according to these characteristics, theories, and the way that children are and the way children learn, that you think about the kind of activities that you would or wouldn't include in your classes if you are assigned a K course or a PT1 or 2. And also to reflect upon the personality features that a K course teacher should show. Do you think you're prepared to teach K courses? I bet you are, and I really invite you to try out this because it is a wonderful experience. Then, in preparation to our session, you're going to be sent the instructions for a very easy but significant piece of homework that is for you to check some samples of KTP classes. These are some PowerPoints from where we would like that you grasp a better view on how to teach kids. So you're going to receive the instructions for this pre-assignment in the wiki, and if you have any further questions, you can contact the supervision team. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye.